Buying your first home in these three neighborhoods carries a hefty premium. You're essentially lighting 150,000 or more on fire just for a zip code while missing the exact same urbanism 3 miles away. I'm AD, a Chicago urbanism realtor with 14 years of experience in residential real estate, and today we're auditing the Chicago dream in three legendary spots to see if the math actually tracks for your first purchase. All right, folks, let's jump right into the heavy hitter, Lincoln Park. Let me be clear, this neighborhood is basically the gold standard for Chicago urbanism. You've got the historic row houses, the retail corridors on Armitage and Halsted, and you're right on the park itself. For those of you wanting to leave the car at home, the walking, biking, and transit options here are world class. You have the brown, purple, and red lines cutting through, plus some of the most reliable bus routes in the city. And I don't hate the car, but here, actually, you have the option to not rely on it. Every single day, there's a lifestyle that matters, right? But I want to be very clear about the reality of buying here as your first move. As of March 2026, we're seeing a median sales price hitting around $700,000. It is a brutal entry point for most first-time buyers looking for a realistic start in the market. The competition right now is honestly like a Shark Tank. We're seeing a Redfin Compete score of 72, which means many homes are getting multiple offers, and folks are out here waiving contingencies just to get a seat at the table. Over 41% of homes in Lincoln Park are selling over the list price. I just saw a unit on Racine Avenue go for 20% over list and closing over $1.6 million. That's just the tip of the iceberg. If you're a first-time buyer stretching your budget just to get in, you're paying what I call that prestige tax. You might love the neighborhood, but if you have to fight 10 other people and pay $50K or more over asking for a 2-bedroom condo that needs work, is that really the smartest first move? This neighborhood still works for high earners with a massive down payment who plan to stay for 10 plus years. But for everyone else, the math is just brutal. Oh, and folks, but by the way,
Hey, listen up.
if you're relocating to Chicago and trying to figure out which neighborhood actually fits the way you want to live, this is exactly the conversation I have with buyers, because this is not just about bedroom count and budget. Those matter, of course. I'm a realtor focusing on urbanism, as you know, and I understand that. But the bigger question is lifestyle fit. Are you trying to go car light? Do you want to be able to walk more for your daily needs? And are you okay with a quieter pocket if it means a little more space? Or are you going to forget that in 4 months because what you really wanted was more energy, more convenience, and more urban rhythm? So if you're serious about a move, reach out to me. I have on the screen here a scheduler. You can click on it. It's a QR code and schedule a consult. We can talk through your criteria before you make a mistake that looks smart on paper but feels wrong once life kicks in. Moving right along to Lakeview, which is easily one of the most energetic and dense pockets of the city. If you value being in the middle of everything, Lakeview is hard to beat. You've got the red, brown, and purple lines as transit lines meeting at Belmont Hub, giving you incredible transit access to the whole city. The walkability here is off the charts. Whether you're grabbing dinner on Broadway or hitting the lakefront trail, it's all about having options. But let's talk about the affordability friction, because it's becoming a real problem for my first-time buyers. The median price in Lakeview sitting around $515,000, and the competition is even fiercer than Lincoln Park with a score of 75. Let me give you some perspective on bidding wars we're seeing right now in 2026. We've had recent listings in Lakeview East pulling in 10 to 22 competing offers, and one place just sold for 18% over list price. Think about that. Almost half of the homes here are selling above asking. When you're a first-time buyer, you're not just competing on price, you're competing against people with 50% down payments, waived inspections. And by the way, don't forget those high HOA fees in the older high-rises and courtyard buildings that can absolutely eat your monthly buying power. This neighborhood still works if you're a young professional who values energy over square footage, but you have to be prepared to lose a few bidding wars before you can land something. And that's a tough pill to swallow for the first purchase. Finally, let's talk about Andersonville. This neighborhood has a community feel that is truly unique. It's all about the small business energy on Clark Street and that human scale architecture. It is incredibly bike friendly and has a slower, more deliberate urban rhythm that people fall in love with. But here's where I have to push back on the hidden gem narrative. Andersonville is no longer hidden, and the prices reflect that. We're seeing a median sales price of roughly $568,000, and the biggest issue here is the absolute lack of inventory. In some weeks, we're only seeing 1 or 2 sales in the entire neighborhood. When inventory is that low, every single decent condo becomes a battlefield. And I want to be very clear, that vibe you love in Andersonville is being fully capitalized into the home prices. People are paying a massive identity tax to live within a few blocks of the water tower, of the water. If you're still a first-time buyer, you're often looking at vintage buildings where the assessments are rising and the competition is relentless because there's just isn't enough housing to go around. I acknowledge why people want to be here. It's awesome, but loving the neighborhood doesn't mean buying here first is the smartest financial move. This spot still works for the buyer who prioritizes neighborhood identity above all else, but if you're focused on the math and the long-term affordability, you have to be very realistic about the friction you're going to hit here. If you're getting value from this, make sure you subscribe to the channel, because this is what I talk about on this channel: Chicago neighborhoods, urbanism, walkability, biking, public transit, missing middle housing, and how all of that connects to the real estate decision. Because again, this is not just where do I buy, it's how do I live. And if there's a neighborhood that you're debating right now, put it in the comments, put it down in the comments. I'd be happy to maybe do another video on it, because there are a lot of neighborhoods in Chicago and where the story is a little more nuanced than what the internet makes it sound like. So let's go on to the next section. So what's the big takeaway, good folks, here? Lincoln Park, Lakeview, and Andersonville are all world-class neighborhoods. That isn't in doubt. They offer the exact kind of transit-rich, walkable, lifestyle-driven environment that makes Chicago such an amazing place to live. I admire these neighborhoods. I live in Lakeview East, and I want my clients to enjoy them. But I also want you to understand that for many first-time homebuyers, these spots are effectively buying at the top. You're paying for the prestige, the established identity, and the peak demand. Lincoln Park gives you that high-end, iconic Chicago experience, but you'll pay a massive premium for it. Lakeview offers incredible density and energy, but you have to watch out for those high carrying costs and small spaces. And finally, Andersonville has an unbelievable community feel, but the limited inventory and high identity tax make the math very tricky. Sometimes the smartest move for you, first home, is to find a neighborhood that offers 80% of the lifestyle for 60% of the price. You can still visit these neighborhoods, and you can still grab dinner on Clark Street or walk through Lincoln Park, but you don't necessarily have to carry the brutal mortgage that comes with living right in the center of them. Admire the lifestyle, folks, but always respect the math. I'm AD again, your Chicago Urbanism Realtor, and I'll see you on the next video.